Right, right, and then there was another one about the relocation, yeah, exactly, so we have a couple of just let me know when you get going, we can figure out whatever you need, but yeah, we'll look at it.
Oh, here, have you done your training? Yeah, we have to do both.
Yeah, we're going to, absolutely. Yeah, it's great.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, she's gonna cool. Oh, I thought she was gonna shut the door. Oh. How about them apples? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse my allergies. Apparently, it took 41 years for me to get allergies living in Sacramento, but it's finally happened. An agenda. So we can just jump into this, and if anybody has any questions, of course, we'll do our best to answer them. We continue to plow through these applications and business operating permits. If you're following the cap in of conditional use permits in the Power In Alliance area, we're up to 2,376,792. And there are, I believe, 22 applications that are still pending for processing. So I believe that total amount of pending plus approved is in excess of 2.5 million. Volatile manufacturing, the city's Law and Legislation Committee approved, at least in concept, the use of volatile manufacturing. We are now in the process of drafting amendments to our ordinances to allow volatile extraction. We're going to be working with our fire department, our planning department, and our building department. If you are interested in volatile extraction and you either have an existing manufacturing permit or intend to apply for one, probably not every zone is going to be an acceptable place to do volatile extraction. So I would, if you're out there scouring the city for buildings, I would probably avoid things like C2 zoned buildings. There you go. It's even in there. But I think it's a good thing, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully to council in June. I think that's probably a little aggressive given the amount of amendments that we have to make to like 14 different code sections, but we shall see. We're also going to be doing kind of an omnibus bill for our Title V, the cannabis. Really a lot of cleanup. If you are a policy geek, feel free to read through Title V, and if it's not hugely substantive, feel free to throw out some changes, but we are in the process of making some of these amendments, hoping to take this to council also in May of this year. It's really, like I said, a lot of cleanup. We're getting rid of like the city's badge requirement that we don't enforce, and I've told you all to comply with state law by issuing your own badges, and some other things. So again, if you've got suggestions or ideas, send them our way. Certainly don't have the market cornered on good ideas. Cannabis waste management, this continues to be at least a little bit of an issue, and there continues to be confusion around how cannabis should be destroyed. I know that there is at least one company out there that likes to collect all the cannabis waste in whatever form it's in, either a packaged good, a vape cartridge, flower out of a jar or container, put it into a container and haul it off and destroy it somewhere else. Technically, legally, you can't do that. All the cannabis waste needs to be rendered unusable and unrecognizable on site. So if somebody shows up to haul your waste away, make sure that they are making it unusable and unrecognizable on site. Yeah, and then, yeah, and you don't want us to issue admin penalties, so lithium-ion batteries and those sorts of things. If you're doing your own waste hauling, please, make sure you're disposing of that waste properly. You don't need to be throwing those batteries into the landfill. Non-operational business BOPs. If you remember some time ago, probably over a year ago now, it has been over a year, wow. We began, really at the request of the industry, issuing non-operational BOPs. People wanted them for a variety of reasons. We have reached the point where some of those non-operational BOPs have expired and would otherwise be renewed. We have been contacted by a couple of folks that are in that position saying, hey, I'm still not ready to operate. I still have 6 more months, what do I do? Your choices are, you can go ahead and renew your non-operational BOP. It's totally up to you. You can also let it expire, but then you will need to simply reapply, and rather than paying the renewal fee, you just have to pay the application fee again. So you're gonna have to do your own ROI on that and how much longer it's gonna take until you're open, but really the choice is up to you. Incomplete applications. On behalf of Jamie, who's somewhere here, oh, she's outside. Please give her all of the information. We have at least, I'll say 40 to 50 applications that are still yet to be complete. We're going to issue everyone a deadline and a timeline and give you 180 days to submit a completed application. Otherwise, we're going to deem it incomplete and just say thanks for playing. So I think we've attempted repeatedly to reach out to folks to get those applications in and complete, and some have been and some have, I'll just say, reluctant to provide whatever that deficiency in information is. But we're going to start deeming them incomplete and essentially denying the application. If you are a registered cultivator or registered manufacturer and your application is denied, you're going to have to cease operation immediately. You will have advance notice of this. We will work with you. This will not be a surprise. But if your BOP is denied, your local authorization is going to be revoked, and we're going to have to come up with a plan to remove all that cannabis on site in a legally compliant manner. I don't know what camera system software familiarization is. What do you mean by that one? Make sure to know how to use your camera software. Oh, there it is. Yeah, make sure someone knows how to use the cameras. My guess is that we've had inspectors come through and ask people for video footage and have had at least more than one blank stare. So your manager, at the very least, should know how to operate your digital video recorder and know how to pull up information and video. Yeah. Don't let your state license be revoked. So local authorization, none of this has changed. We have been, if you as an applicant are in a location that has a valid conditional use permit, you've submitted a completed application, you have turned in your building permit, we are willing and able to grant your local authorization to the state for you to continue to move forward. As you know, each agency is a little bit different, or you might know, in terms of what they find to be acceptable. But we are granting that local authorization really to folks that are at least in the process of becoming very ready. If you are on fire watch or have a stop work order issued where your building permit has expired, you're going to have a problem. And everyone should know the current status of their building permit in this room. If you don't, you're probably behind in what you need to do for it. There are, as right now, probably building permits are the single largest gap in compliance and progress towards legalizing and permitting the industry as a whole. So there are a lot of folks that are are still on cycle 1 plan checks. Maybe they're on cycle 2, but they haven't touched it in 60, 90, 120 days. If you are in that boat where you have sat on your building permit application for a very long period of time to the point where it's getting close to expiring, you're about to run into a lot of problems. So we're beginning to deny applications for folks that are operating whose building permits have expired. So a registered cultivator, registered manufacturer, your building permit has expired because you haven't moved on it quick enough. We're going to deny your application, revoke your local authorization, and shut you down. Get your building permit, do the work, get it inspected. I don't know how many times I can say that. It's March. I've probably been saying that for 6-8 months now. So in the good news category, the UC Davis Graduate School of Management, which is I'd say a prestigious MBA program operated here locally by UCD, is going to be dedicating a cohort of grad students. I think there's going to be 6 or 8. I actually meet with them later this afternoon to do an assessment of the cannabis industry in Sacramento. Specifically, they're going to be studying what are the economic impacts that cannabis has had in the city of Sacramento. So I'm going to help them with their design of their study and their model, and then we're going to be sharing some of your contact info, email with this group. And if you are so inclined, we'd really like for you to sit down with them and share some information. They're really looking to measure what are those economic impacts, right? So you bought a building for X. Okay, well was probably an increased price from 5 years ago when it was previously purchased. You have X number of employees, right? You pay X amount in taxes. You did tenant improvements worth $150 a square foot for your cultivation facility. So they're going to look around at the cannabis industry as a whole and really attempt to kind of quantify what's the economic benefit, if you will, that the cannabis industry has had on the city of Sacramento and the surrounding region for that matter. So they're going to be looking at like number of jobs, again, all those, I think, positive indicators. So if you get an email from someone at UC Davis or an email from someone in our office saying, hey, would you sit down with them? I hope you take the time. Any of your company-specific information is completely confidential. We're not even going to see it. I'm not interested in how many employees your particular business has. I don't care. Looking to understand that manufacturing in the city of Sacramento, has produced 280 jobs or whatever that number is. So any information that is specific to your company, we don't need that. It's not going to be in the report. Again, this is looking big picture at the industry as a whole, and happy to answer questions about that. We have to talk about that? No? All right. As you might recall, last month the City Council accepted a report back from our consultant, and it came back and said further study is going to need to be done. The city is currently evaluating a number of scenarios as to how best to achieve that. We will communicate what those options are or option is as soon as we have an idea as to how we're going to get there. And I wish I could say more of that, but as it seems to be continuously with this item, we shall see. Also in the good news category, yay, our core program contract was awarded, and in further yay news, we added 2 zip codes that were previously left out, 95838 and 95832, Meadowview and Del Paso Heights. And the council also decided to increase the amount of the contracts. And so we awarded 2 contracts on Tuesday night, one to the California Asian Pacific Chamber, one to the Greater Sacramento Urban League for administering this program. And on Tuesday, the council said, we believe in this so much, we're going to go ahead and increase these contracts amount. And so in a few more weeks, I'm actually going to be coming back to the city council with amended contracts for increasing their scope. And so with that, if you want to come up and, so with us today is Cassandra Jennings. She is the CEO, President of Sacramento. She is the are you the CEO? I forget your title. Yeah. CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League, one of our core program administrators. So very honored to have you here, and thank you. So.
Thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. As Joe said, my name is Cassandra Jennings, and I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League. And it's certainly our honor and privilege to be one of the 2 facilitators for the core program in Sacramento. So our program, we're going to call it Green Equity. And we will be preparing, and we are prepared to give a comprehensive program. It will include community outreach and education, intake, and an assessment, which really there's at least 4 tracks. You can do workforce, core cohorts, which will really get to the business line, business basics, and core incubation. And we're going to cover all aspects. We will also include mentoring and support and specialized services. And our goal is to really get successful businesses to ownership. And as you all know, the core program, we are committed and determined to really reach out and involve those who were disproportionately criminalized by the whole marijuana industry earlier. So we're excited about getting involved and leading this effort. We will start ramping up right away. Our headquarters for the Green Equity is in Del Paso Heights, so we're glad one of those zip codes were added at 95838. But we also have a satellite office in Oak Park, the Urban League does. So we will be reaching out to the entire community. We don't want to leave anybody out or behind. We have an awesome team, and that's why we're so excited to be involved. And I want to introduce, many of us are here, not all of us are here, but we just want to let you know who we are, and we hope to be engaging you and others in the business as we go forward. So I want to first really acknowledge and bring up Malachi Amen and Brenda Davis, because they are what I call the really true leaders that stepped out ahead over a year or so ago and worked with the city to make sure that we had this equity program. So if it wasn't for their leadership, Malachi is with the California Urban Partnership, and then Brenda is an attorney, Brenda Davis, Esquire, and to make sure that we're moving this program forward. And not just this one that we were awarded, but the whole spectrum of the core program. So I really want to thank them and really honored that they're part of our team. I also want to bring up Kevin Daniels. Thank you. Many of you all probably already know them, but we can't say thank you enough, and we really want to make sure that they continue to be involved in this conversation. And delivering what we all want is businesses from our community. And then Kevin Daniels is with me. He's the VP of Programming with the Urban League. He will be engaged in it as well. We do also have Mario Martin with M2 Farms, who's really engaged in the industry already and will be able to join our team as well. Others, I don't see that there are others here, but we also have the Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce, the Hmong Innovation Politics, and the Southeast Asian Resource Action Center, and I can't forget Aziza Goins with the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce. So that and more is our... And the Hispanic Chamber as well. So that's sort of our core group. We will be outreaching, we will be engaging, and our goal is to get some businesses on the street and operating. Because we are just ramping up, we brought some information, a contact card we'd like to pass out to you, and it just asks you a few things so we can keep connected. Because, you know, part of this industry, many of you are already in it, and those we want to get in, it's about connections, it's about follow through, and it's about being successful. So we hope you'll fill it out, and we'll hang around and be able to answer any questions you may have later. Okay, thank you.
Also, thank you, Cassandra. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Also with us today is Frank Louie with the California Asian Chamber.
Yep. Hello, everyone. This is Frank Louie. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Sacramento Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce and the California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce. We're honored to work with the city on this project, along with the Sacramento Urban League, Greater Sacramento Urban League, and others in the community. For those that know the chamber and both at the local level and the state, you know that for the last few years we've been, actively supporting and advocating for the cannabis industry, in Sacramento, working with the local regulators, making sure that, small businesses were represented and minority communities were represented as well. With the passage of Prop 64. And the legalization and creating a legitimate industry, it was a great opportunity for all to participate, but that wasn't necessarily the case, and I still believe that there's a big gap for minority communities throughout the Sacramento region. In addition, I think it's really important that we continue to work closely and advocate for small business and represent those entrepreneurs and those that may not have had the opportunity to get access to resources to help guide them to opportunities, which, we do need to do that now, because I think in a few years those opportunities will shrink significantly, and it's really important that the small businesses, entrepreneurs, and those looking for I think, gainful employment in potentially high-wage jobs. And I think it's very important that we continue to focus there as well. I really appreciate and support the city's recognition of the minority populations that were disproportionately subject to marijuana convictions. I think CORE was created to level the playing field, and the chamber is looking forward to that. Our program will be called the Sacramento Grow Green Program, and we'll be launching a website in the coming weeks, sacramentogrowgreen.com. It'll be loaded with information and resources and access to workshops and opportunities in education. The Sacramento Grow Green will provide business resource services, including business plan development, business mentoring, technical assistance, consultation for creating cannabis businesses to be owned and operated by persons disproportionately affected by the past criminalization of cannabis, or those in the eligible neighborhoods that were documented, and also create pathways to great jobs in the industry. I know that there are a lot of good jobs. There's going to be many coming, and I think it's really important that we take advantage of those as well. Eligibility, you'll see that on our website, or you can certainly resource through the city's website on eligibility. And the zip codes and the eligibility requirements that are allowed. But we're just excited to, in partnership with the Sacramento Hispanic Chamber and many diverse community partners that we partnered with, to, outreach, educate, and support future entrepreneurs here in Sacramento, and make sure that we are, there to help them, find their path to success. Look forward to all of you. We'll be sending out information shortly. Look forward to outreaching and educating all of you on the programs and how to take advantage of this. All right? Thank you.
So thank you, Frank, and thank you, Cassandra and Malachi and Brenda and everybody for coming down here. With that, that's pretty much all we have for today. I will say, just as a general reminder, please be safe out there. Continue to evaluate your cash handling procedures. Continue to evaluate your standard operating procedures that keep you safe. I think this is our last meeting before 420. Please don't do anything stupid like host an on-site consumption event. You're right. There's I know there's at least a couple of you that thought about it, right? They're not going to catch me. We might. And if you're a licensed business, you've got a lot on the line right now. So if you want to go sell, go do it at Cal Expo. And that is all I got. Seeing no questions. Really? Okay.
Fernando Alvarez, state licensed cannabis event organizer, specific to the events you were talking about. Can you provide a little insight to what the city's doing in regards to AB 2020 and implementing any pilot programs or application processes to go through that?
So we had an initial internal conversation with council members. We didn't take it to Law and Ledge, did we? It didn't make it AB 2020. It didn't make it to Law and Ledge. We had an internal conversation with council members. For those of you, AB 2020 allows for on-site consumption events outside of agricultural fairgrounds and county fairgrounds. And I'll just say that I don't think that they were quite ready for it yet. So it's kind of sitting in the parking lot at the moment, along with on-site consumption at dispensaries.
Over here.
Yeah, Joe. Since Sequoia Lab's been closed, how many applications been submitted for test labs and how many been approved?
I think we have 4 testing labs. So one recently opened. I don't know if they're operational yet, but they've been issued their BOP. So I think we have 4 at the moment.
Four been approved?
Correct.
Okay.
Go Giants.
Hey, Joe and Cannabis team, thanks for your work as always. I had a question about the holdups with most of the permits. I think you obviously touched on it before, that building permits is really the number one item, but a little bit of detail in that. Is it the electrical plans that you're seeing mostly holding up these building permits, or just lack of response to the comments? Is there a couple things that come to the top of the list?
Yeah, and it's not like a thing. I will, I try really hard to not speak on behalf of other departments, but I will, at least to the best that I can. I believe that it's a multitude of things, including people not hiring really qualified architects or engineers to do this work. That's probably one of the first things that gets people sideways. I mean, if you submit your plans and they come back with, 98 comments on it, it's a problem. That's probably the biggest one. There's also a shortage of just design professionals, I think, right now in the space. Thirdly is the volume of permits that we are dealing with, which is complicated when we get a bunch of stuff that isn't, very well. The better designed it is, the better engineered it is, the fewer comments you're going to have, the faster you're going to go through the process. But we're trying. So it's not one thing. It's kind of it's a little bit of everything.
The other question was, I missed the first slide, which usually has the number of BOPs and CUPs issued and applied for, and I was wondering if you could just slide back real quick.
I shouldn't know this number off the top of my head, but I don't. 186 and 380. It's a lot. Yep. Like a Tinder app for growers, or
is it possible to have a lease partnership with somebody that has space to grow?
I don't make a habit of not providing business advice. I mean, there's probably ways to find arrangements within the legal letter of the law to.
That's my biggest thing, is I have all these plans and all this education since like 2010, all this passion. That's the big ones. Nobody wants to really work.
Theoretical plans, right? I'm sure they're just theoretical plans.
Agreed.
Okay.
Well, 20 pounds of seeds, and generally speaking, if somebody had that.
Hypothetically. Right.
Let's say somebody had that, we really want to make things happen, and it's just frustrating waiting on you.
There are probably people in this room that that know other people with buildings and conditional use permits that have permitted grow facilities.
So we can make it happen officially under my own business name some way. I want to have my own thing going.
You need to have your own space, right? I mean,
and I'd like to lease it under their permit.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have your own licensed premise if you're gonna do it
within their permit. Then maybe that's micro farming. Maybe then
can't be within their permit. I mean, we can have some. Let's talk offline. But you need to have your own premise if you're gonna.
Is that a micro permit or cottage permit? Because I know California has their permits, but then each county and city has their own thing. And
it's not a micro license. A micro license is doing multiple activities, no fewer than 3. So you got to cultivate, distribute, and manufacture, for example. But you need your own licensed premise if you're going to have your own licensed, kind of business, if you will. So happy to talk, though, about what those specific requirements are. Yeah, 2016 would have been a good time to start that.
Hey, Joe, I wanted to ask if it's a deadline for me to submit my application for the test lab.
For the what site?
Is it a deadline for me to submit the application for a test lab?
For testing?
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
All right, Dodger fans only get 2 questions, though. Maybe 3 because it's opening day.
Hey, Joe. My name's Ronnie Thomas. I'm a fire protection engineer, and I work here locally. And I'd like to go back to one of the questions, which was trying to find quality engineers, architects, and so forth. My understanding is the city now has a program, or it's been developing one, where it's a resource where folks can find engineers that are either accredited by the city or perhaps somehow vetted to help out with the cannabis-related facilities in the area. My personal problem is that I've been on a couple design teams, and it's hit or miss, both with architects and the engineering team, particularly when we're talking about manufacturing. You don't really need us so much for a lot of the grow areas and stuff like that. But I was wondering if there's a way to proactively get that information out to folks, which I think would kind of unclog this permitting process just a little bit.
I would ask our fire marshal that question. I'm not sure if we have a list of kind of approved or recommended vendors for
Not so much
for design.
just a resource of people willing to even work in the industry, because I think a lot of people are kind of gun shy with their licenses and so forth.
So currently what happened is, so we opened up our, like a job submittal kind of thing where engineers can come in and apply to be on that list. Unfortunately, we only got one person, so we reopened it again. And so it's currently open right now, so we are working on getting a list of qualified mechanical engineers and fire protection engineers. Unfortunately, it's still in the building phase, so.
We have created a project manager position, just FYI, within the building department. So I don't know if it's official, but by default, Jeff Brooks has been doing kind of that role for cannabis-related projects. So we actually have a dedicated project manager for cannabis. So his name is Jeff Brooks, jbrooks at cityofsacramento.org. He's a great resource.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
How are you? Quick question. Well, I doubt it's a quick question, actually. Since the council adopted the cap on cultivation in the Power Inn area, I continue to be confused as to what the count is based upon. Is it based upon the square footage in your CUP, or is it based upon the up to amount that you get in your BOP? For example, I have a client who has a space that got a BOP for 10,000 square feet in there, but they only use 1,600 square feet. The new tenants want to use more of that space. Where's the 2.3? Where's it being counted from, and will it ever be reconciled with the BOPs? Because we have a lot. Like, I have a CUP for property. I've already told Jamie that we're not using it for cultivation. We turned it back into the city. Is there any way to know, as a consultant, whether or not to take on additional cultivation clients? There's really no simple answer. Planning is going on what was in the CUP.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah. Well, it was designed to be the consultant Full Employment Act. Joking. It is a little confusing. So it is. I wish Joy was here. But it is counted based on what is approved in the conditional use permit. So somebody goes in and says, I have a 50,000 square foot building and I want to do 50,000 square feet of cultivation there. We're going to add 50,000 square feet to that ledger. They come in with a business operating permit and says, I'm going to do 5,000 square feet of cultivation. It still counts towards that 50.
Well, without walkways, if you have a 50,000 square foot building, you're obviously not cultivating in 50,000 square feet.
Right.
But that said, there are a lot of real estate speculators who have entitled properties with CUPs, and they're empty. And so, so when is that going to get reconciled?
So I think that's one of the reasons why the council, why we started putting 1 year expiration dates on conditional use permits, was an attempt to incentivize development or disincentivize land speculation. And so some of those conditional use permits are approaching a year now in terms of like their age, and so this 2.5 million square foot cap, should it hold, is going to, for the next, really probably next 12 months, going to be a little bit of a potentially a moving target as somebody doesn't execute or exercise their conditional use permit, and that square footage falls off, and there's somebody else in the queue, and that's going to.
It's a lot of money for guesswork, especially for the smaller businesses and the folks in the core program who are going to try to get space. Will the city at some point, or did the ordinance contain language that said that there'll be public information based on how much square footage is available at a certain point in time so you can make a good business decision?
Well, we do publish the approved CUPs, but we don't know what is available, and we don't publish, I guess, what is pending.
Right, so it doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably, think that the BOP would be a better mechanism for that, but that's not the route that we went down.
Well, given that there's continued months after the ordinance was adopted to be confusion, is your office or planning going to bring it back to City Council and ask for a definitive ruling or a switch? Because it really, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. We're supposed to report back on that, I think, sometime
very soon.
I'll take a look at when a report back is, and obviously I have zero control over what the council wants to hear and ultimately discuss, but I'll take a look at when it was adopted and kind of see when our next update may be.
I have a question on cannabis waste. So while there's clear direction on the plant waste, not clear, but what about cannabis waste contaminated or hazardous waste with cannabis waste? So I've been talking, this comes mainly from the extractors and the manufacturers. So I've spoken to DEA and DTSC, and they continue to kind of.
What was the first one?
DEA and DTSC, being that it's a
The
THC.
Drug Enforcement Agency?
Yeah, Schedule 1 drug. So there's no clear guidelines. So should I continue to work with the state EPA, with the management of like solvents contaminated with THC? What guidance or direction? Because there's none right now.
Yeah, so I think the County Department of Environmental Sciences is a good resource, as well as DTSC, as to how to properly dispose of things that have like ethanol in them and other hazardous materials. That would be my suggestion. DTSC and the county.
And the county.
Yep. Yes, Ken. County Environmental. Oh, hey, how about that?
There's your rep.
There he is. Come on down. See, I don't know the answer, but at least I got it right. Right? Call him.
Go ahead.
Jeez. Thought. Hold on. So, no marijuana.
Can we go to him first? Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, Joe. I just want to get a status update on the micro business permits, where we're at on that legislation-wise.
We have them. Yeah.
No matter where we go with this, bottom line, bigger countries are right behind us. I don't know what's slowing this down because you're right, it's out of your hands. So if we're going to move forward as a human race, it's going to be working towards our 9-plant limit in the county, 6-plant limit in the city. I don't know how we can even motivate a whole city to do this, but there's got to be incentives. And I'm speaking from like a socialistic, communistic like approach. Let's overthrow the government. It's not a possible way. But again, a lot of people need this commodity, and we don't understand the bartering that can wrap around this type of back-breaking energy that human race still has control over, using their small little closet space to their backyards on a tax return. Simple little thing. Long story short, it's a little frustrating because, again, I went past that whole cloning, selling clones on Craigslist, trying to make a little dime or nickel bag, this and that. I went to breeding, pollinating, and it got so much more interesting, and manipulating the plant and learning how to feed it and the science behind it. Long story short, there's such a big education that wraps around it that will motivate you to live off life and energy, realize that, man, there's something to this world besides drama, besides some TV, besides some opera singer, actor, whatever. Long story short, nothing wrong with all that. Beautiful said. Let's figure out what the purpose of this industry, and it's to bring power back in the human race, and not some technology. Amen.
All right. No worries.
Hey, Joe. Jackie McGowan, K Street Consulting. I have a question about underground regulations. So,
again? Did you say underground?
Underground.
Underground regulation?
It's a term we use in the industry to
Okay.
talk about regulations that are not required by the city or the state, but just in a specific zone. So I have a client that is now being told that they need separate bathrooms, separate hallways, and separate break rooms for every license that they plan on holding in their building, which tells me it's an underground regulation. And I'm wondering if there's any way to get a list of those?
Well, that's not a requirement in the city of Sacramento that I'm aware of. So,
Another example is to keep garbage cans inside the facility.
well, I think that there are certainly neighbors and interest groups that have their own ideas and designs around their ideal aesthetic for their community that go beyond the letter of the state law or adopted city code. However,
do separate bathrooms add to the aesthetic of the city?
Again, that's not a requirement for the city, and if people are being told that their site plans need to be different than what is currently aligned with state and city law, I would like to know that. But as far as I know, our city planning department is processing things in alignment with state law.
Hi, Joe. My name's Robert Simon, and I was just wondering in regards to the waste management. Are they doing it medicinal disposal way, where you use coffee grounds, sand, and they can just throw it in trash afterwards, rendering it unusable? Or because that's how we used to do it in Nevada. It's in regards to the waste management.
There's not a prescription for exactly how to render it unusable and unrecognizable. Just,
Okay.
I think that there's a standard of reasonableness that I think is being applied and expected.
So if I do coffee grounds or sand on it, rendering it unusable, where it can't be lit, I can throw it in the trash, or would I still have to dispose of it through a waste management company, such as Waste Management Company?
No, it still has to be disposed of properly. I mean, go and read the state regs. You can't just, throw it in like your personal waste can, right? And, and sprinkling some coffee grounds on 50 pounds of weed, doesn't count either. I mean, it's like, put some, okay, it's good, right? And so, again, unrecognizable and unusable, and then it has to be, you can self-haul it if you want. It has to go to, it's all spelled out in the state regs, has to go to a licensed landfill or transfer station to get a weight certificate.
Yeah, no, that's fully understood. I was just wondering, rendering it unusable, could we use a medicinal type disposal method when it comes to using coffee grounds and then giving it to the waste management company? Is that what you guys mean?
Yeah, you could probably use 1,000 different ways of rendering something unusable or unrecognizable. Again, there's a reasonableness standard that is going to be applied, and so sprinkling an ounce of coffee grounds on 50 pounds of weed isn't going to cut it. And then like, oh, I put it out in the trash.
You wouldn't want,
right?
yeah, but you wouldn't want to put chemicals on there and someone get their hands on it and then smoke it and then them lose their mind.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
The intent is to prevent diversion,
Okay.
right? So if again, unusable and unrecognizable. If it looks like weed, it smells like weed, you haven't rendered it unusable or unrecognizable.
No, that's fully understood. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Cool. So again, just a reminder, UC Davis Graduate School of Management, it's going to be, I think, a very enlightening study as to what the economic impacts are. So I would encourage you all, if you get an email from them or an email from us connecting you, they're going to be looking at doing a bunch of structured interviews and assessments, and I think it'll be the first of its kind. And yeah, and I hope you'll participate. With that, going once, going twice.
City council by accepting
I got it. I'm going too.
She's I already took the under on it.